Gender-based violence has reached unbearable proportions, wherein every day we read about violence, displacement, and brutality against women, children, and members of LGBTIQ+ community. It has become a pandemic of a special type, which requires extraordinary interventions and actions from all sectors of our society, and they must do that in partnership with government. These difficult times were also reflected in last week's Labour Force Survey report that was released by Stats South Africa, which showed that our country's third quarter unemployment rate reached a record of 34.9% from 34.5% in the second quarter. What was also disheartening was the report showed that Gauteng's unemployment rate reached 37% in the third quarter from 34% in the previous quarter. We are particularly concerned about the high unemployment levels in our province, especially among young people. It is a matter of grave concern to us that in a relatively rich province such as Gauteng, we continue to see high and deepening levels of poverty. However, we are of the view that the economic growth and recovery interventions that we're implementing in partnership with the private sector, labor, and the rest of society, which are aligned to our Growing Gauteng Together Vision 2030 plan, are the most direct and effective route towards addressing the socio-economic challenges that we are facing. Therefore, in 2021 adjustment budget that we are presenting today, we continue to focus on our 4 priorities, and those 4 priorities are defeating the COVID-19 pandemic. The second one is reigniting the Gauteng's economy. The third one is recalibrating social policy, and improving governance. Honorable members, the risk presented by COVID-19 to the speed and sustainability of economic recovery and growth at both national and provincial levels cannot be overemphasized. According to information from the Gauteng Department of Health, as of the end of November 2021, this province had vaccinated more than 4.4 million people. The number of those who were fully vaccinated in our province stood at just over 3.6 million people. In addition to vaccination, we call on our people to continue practicing non-pharmaceutical interventions to limit the spread of COVID-19. These include wearing of a mask, washing of hands regularly with soap and water, and avoid large gatherings. As Gauteng, we continue to mark substantial resources available to fight COVID-19 and to save the lives and livelihoods of South Africans. The economy will grow by 5.1% in 2020-21 and by 1.8% in 2022. However, there are risks to this outlook, including setbacks in the fight against COVID-19, such as vaccine-resistant mutations, and the possibility that the electricity supply could become further constrained. Turning to the provincial economy, the real gross domestic product by the region, which is called GDPR of Gauteng, rose pre-pandemic from 1.1 trillion in 2017 to 1.2 trillion in 2019. Though we are a year-on-year growth rate of only 0.6% in 2019. In 2020, COVID-19 brought reduced demand in all trading partners and the need for lockdowns to slow the spread of the disease. Forecast is that GDPR for 2020-21 will increase by 4.7%, recovering to 1.1 trillion, and will only surpass the pre-pandemic production levels in 2023. Metropolitan municipalities were responsible for 90% of Gauteng's economic activity in 2020. The city of Johannesburg recorded the largest contribution at 44.3%. It was followed by our administrative capital of the city of Tshwane with 28.5%. The city of Ekurhuleni accounted for 19.7% of the Gauteng economy. The 2 district municipalities, which is Citibank and the West Rand district, accounted for a combined share of 7.5%. The largest negative growth rate was recorded in Sedibeng, where GDPR fell by 7.8%, while the smallest was recorded in the city of Johannesburg at 6.2%. In 2020-2021, all municipalities in Gauteng are expected to recover and record positive growth rates. The highest focus is for the city of Ekurhuleni, where GDPR is predicted to increase by 5.1%, and the lowest is in the city of Tshwane, which we will see an increase of 4.2%. We are promoting and facilitating investment in special economic zones. We believe that SEZs are the investment anchors for development of network industries in the province and reduce the cost of doing business. As a result, various special economic zones are currently being developed in strategic areas in our province, including the high-tech SEZ, Val SEZ, OR Tambo International Airport SEZ, Tshwane SEZ, and Western Corridor SEZ. SEZ-related construction programs began in August last year, and the investment in these projects have increased from 2.5 billion to 4.3 billion. So far, the business case is that all technical reports, master plans, and studies have been completed for the high-tech and science SEZ in the industrial area, which is in Tshwane. In response to Gauteng provincial government we established an online application management system in October with the option to use the regional offices for direct disinvestment of joint Gauteng Economic Propeller and Industrial Development Cooperation rapid response funds for distressed township businesses. The support is up to 50,000 for informal businesses in grant funding and up to 1 million for formal businesses, which is 50% of the grant, and that 50% we take it as a loan, the other one. This is an addition to our township revitalization program that we have been implementing to reposition the economy by using government's significant procurement muscle to drive economic inclusion and broad-based black economic empowerment. Since April 2019, we have procured goods and services from thousands of township suppliers to the value of 7.4 billion. Our message to township suppliers is that registering on supply database is free. No one must charge you for a service that is offered by our government for free. Honorable members were also encouraged by the progress that is made to implement the National Economic Recovery and Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, which focuses on infrastructure investment, localization and reindustrialization, and export promotion with an employment orientation and supportive policy environment. Given the size of our economy and contribution to the national gross domestic product, Gauteng will benefit immensely from these national initiatives. The updated estimates revenue of 3.7 billion over and above the baselines is projected over the 2020-2021 MTF. The information will be updated as and when information related to new sources of revenue become available. Honorable members, Gauteng Provincial Government remains committed to public infrastructure delivery. The National Development 2030 provides us with a clear roadmap on how to eliminate poverty and reduce inequality. Infrastructure remains a key pillar in achieving these goals. Gauteng Provincial Treasury recognizes that infrastructure delivery is dynamic and that as a collective we must solve complex problems before the impact of our investment shall be visible. Based on the portfolio of evidence submitted by the various departments, we have had to adjust infrastructure budget to 11 billion over the total investment of 10.6 billion, which is allocated to the Departments of Human Settlement, Department of Health, Department of Education, and Department of Roads and Transport, whilst the remaining of 506.7 million is allocated to Departments of Economic Development, Social Development, Agriculture and Rural Development, Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation, and Infrastructure Development. We urge these departments to improve the impact of our investment on service delivery, on social gains. Honorable members, today we are adjusting the fiscal envelope upward with a net increase of 7 billion. This means that the overall budget of the Gauteng provincial government increases from 1.142 billion that I presented to this House in March and to the adjusted appropriation of 149.5 billion. The 7 billion includes a total of 4.3 billion that is added to the provincial equitable share, which of 3 billion of this is to cater for the public sector wage agreement. This shows that as government we care about the plight of our workers in these difficult times. As part of Gauteng COVID-19 response plan, we're making the following allocations: 5.4 million towards the health human resource response plan to COVID-19, and 1.2 billion for the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative funding towards the Basic Education Youth Employment Initiative, and it will be 1.1 that goes there. Health staff and assistant nurses will get 74.6 million, and social development social workers will be receiving 43.7 million. To ignite the Gauteng economy, we are making the following allocations. A total of 114.4 million is allocated for technical adjustment from underspending infrastructure projects towards the Tshwane SEZ and infrastructure expansion. We call it TASES. That is expected to not only boost manufacturing, but also to provide much more needed jobs and stimulate the economy. A total amount of 86 million is a reallocation from surrendered surplus funds towards GEP program on contract financing to support SMMEs. Gauteng Department of Community Safety is allocated an amount of 8.3 million, and this amount includes 3.2 million, which is a reimbursement of stipends paid to patrollers on behalf of the Gauteng Department of Human Settlement, and 3.8 million is for agreement with SANRAL for the provision of law enforcement agencies to enforce traffic laws. Gauteng Department of E-Government is allocated an amount of 79.2 million for the funding of SEP Unlimited during deployment licenses and enterprise support.